Hello Year 4 and welcome to part 2 of your English lesson for today. Now, we are going to be looking now at how we can start to think about using time adverbials in our diary entry plan. Now we know that we've done a lot of work on time adverbials. What are they for? When do we use them? That's right, we use them when we want to show when we are doing something. So when we are planning our diary entry, we are going to be choosing 4 time adverbials that we are going to use in our diary entry. So we need to make sure that we are using them. So I'm going to choose 4 that I am going to use in order. So I might use first as my first time adverbial. I might say then after a while would be my second time adverbial. Then I might put suddenly, and then I might say eventually. So can you see it comes in an order? Okay, so it makes sure that you are writing in a sequence, and that is what we want to make sure that we're doing in our diary entry, that we are writing in a chronological order. Now, today you're going to be planning your diary entry, and this is what half of your sheet is going to look like, apart from the fact that you will not have your writing in yours. Now, based on what we've spoke about in today's lesson, I filled out my 4 W's, and this is going to be what my introduction is going to be like. So I stated that where was I? Well, I've written I was in the Amazon rainforest, surrounded by millions of plants and insects. Who was there? It was just me, alone in the rainforest at first, but then I met 3 strangers from the plane. Their names were Con, Max and Lila. What were you doing there? I was lost. I didn't know where I was. I was alone in the middle of nowhere. And why were you there? I was there because something terrifying happened to the pilot. The plane crashed in the rainforest and we were stranded. Now, can you see here, Year 4, I haven't actually added any information that is new. Everything there we know from the book The Explorer. And when you're writing your introduction in your diary plan, that's what I want you to be thinking. Well, where was the explorer set? Who was there first? Well, it was you, Fred. What did he do first? Well, before he even met everyone else, he was lost, wasn't he? He was walking around calling for help. So you could say, I was walking around and calling for help. Now, you don't need to include much detail, just the basics of the who, the where, the what and the why. But what I don't want you to do is to copy mine word for word, but I do understand that they are going to all be very similar, but just not the same words, okay? So this is the only time that I want you to look at mine, and then I don't want you to look at it again until, and I just want you to have a go at writing your diary entry independently, because we can all do the who, the what, the where and the why, can't we? Because we all know the story by now. So after we've done our introduction, that is the first thing we're going to write on our diary entry plan. The second half of your sheet will look exactly like this. And I have filled in my main event, and I have written, and you will have a line here to write what your main event is, and you will have a line to write that. So I have chosen that my main event is going to be all about how I survived. So I've written brief notes of 3 ways that I survived. I've said my first way, I found a den and made a roof out of leaves, so the sunlight didn't enter. The second way I survived, I went foraging and found grubs and cocoa beans. I used these to make chocolate pancakes. I made a fire to cook this on. And the third way that I survived, I made a raft because I wanted to go to Manaus. Now, if you were to choose your main event as being how I survived, there's lots and lots of ways that Fred, you were able to survive. So if you are doing how I survived, I don't expect you to have the same ones as me. You might have one of the same ones as me, but you are mainly going to have different ones because you're going to choose different things for how Fred survived, because he did lots of things to survive, didn't he? You might even want to make your own reason up for how you survived, but also you can use the book to help you and give you those ideas. So if you think that you had a different way of surviving in the Amazon rainforest, you can put that in there too. So you can either choose to go the imaginative route, where you're thinking of of the rainforest, some things that didn't happen, or you could go down the route of going through the story and using the story's ideas. Now again, I haven't even made lots of notes in the main event section. I've only looked at it in a little bit of detail. I haven't actually thought much about it because all of these ideas are going to be blown up and expanded into paragraphs, because can you see they're all different subjects? And we know from writing paragraphs that we need to change a paragraph for every subject. Now the more events are maybe one or two more events that are small events, but that you're going to write after your main event. So I've just said here, I saw a variety of different animals, such as a blue macaw, piranha, monkeys and a caiman. I also climbed a tree to try and get some honey from a beehive. So there I've got a couple of different small events there that I know that I can blow up into maybe four sentences for each of them, and then that's going to be my more events, okay? Now you're going to choose some more events, but only maybe two, all right? And you're not going to write them in much detail. Now the rest of it is quite self-explanatory. So for the first person, we're all going to have the same here. I, our, me, we or my, or yeah, so it'll be I, our, we or my. And those are the first person pronouns that you need to make sure that you're using in your diary throughout. Now I've chosen 4 past tense verbs here. Now that's what you're going to do. And I've just thought, well, what am I going to do? Well, I might taste the acai berries or the cocoa beans or the grubs. So I've put tasted. I might stumble across something new in my diary entry. So I've put stumbled. I might climb a tree. I can see here that I've climbed a tree. So I've used the past tense verb climbed. And also I might have explored around the rainforest. So I've put explored on there too. In my feelings box, I've used my sentence starters that we discussed earlier. I've used I felt and I thought. And I've thought of 3 things that I might be feeling throughout my diary entry. And I know that I would feel worried at some points writing my diary entry. Perhaps at the beginning in my introduction, I might have felt worried. I might have thought that I wouldn't be able to survive. Maybe I might have felt that I wouldn't be able to survive when I knew that I had to try and eat some grubs because I knew that they'd be really tricky to try and eat. Maybe I felt relieved when I knew that the raft had been secured and able to float on the river. So then I felt quite hopeful. So those are 3 feelings that I would definitely feel, but they must be related to either your main events or your more events. I've also chosen to use 4 time adverbials that are going to work together to create a sequence. So I might use early this morning when I was maybe talking about how I found the den. I might have used after a while to say how I went foraging. I might say suddenly I had an idea that I wanted to make a raft. And eventually I was able to use that raft to sail. And as I was sailing down the river, I saw a variety of different animals. So it all ties together, but remember, what punctuation have I used after my time adverbials? That's right, a comma. Now, after you've done all your plans, the last thing to do is your conclusion. Now, you are going to change your conclusion depending on your diary so far. So your conclusion is going to be different for everyone. Now, my conclusion is based on the fact that I've made a raft. Now, my conclusion is going to say that I'm going to try again tomorrow to see if I can get any further on the raft. So your conclusion needs to try and think of what you're going to do tomorrow. Are you going to try and look for some more food tomorrow? Are you going to try and look for some more people who might be in the rainforest tomorrow? So what would you do next? That is all what your conclusion is going to be. And you can see it's only just over 2 lines long, not long at all. So this is the sheet that you will have today. It looks very complicated, but I've just drawn lines on here for you to have a go at doing this yourself, okay? So that is your task for today, year 4. I do have a plenary for you, and what I would like you to do is imagine that you were actually, in real life, stranded in the rainforest, and I want you to think of 3 adjectives to describe how you think you would feel. These adjectives will need to be written down because you can use them in your diary plan. So pause the video and think of 3 adjectives. Off you go. Okay, did you find 3 adjectives? Make sure they are ambitious. I'm sure they are. Fantastic listening today, year 4. Thank you for your participation, and I'm so excited to see your diary plans. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you in our next lesson. Have a fantastic weekend. Bye, year 4.